All right, everyone, welcome to the Marketing Trench. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to get traction with a memorable brand. And the prompt that we use for this topic today is you're in real estate. So what? I think it's an important question. And let me tell you how we came about it here at Lighthouse Escrow. Like many of you in real estate, maybe you're a real estate agent, maybe you're a lender, maybe you're in title, we're one of many. In Southern California, where my company operates, there are over 600 independently licensed escrow companies. That doesn't include title escrow, which most of you are probably familiar with. That doesn't include broker-owned escrow. So in other words, there are hundreds, perhaps even over 1,000 companies chasing a limited number of real estate transactions every single month. And similarly, there are tens of thousands of agents in any given county chasing that same number of deals. There are hundreds of title reps. There are thousands of lenders. So how do you become memorable? And I think that you have to first tackle this question of why does the world need another one of you? But before we dive into that, I want to share something with you. It's something that when I saw it several years ago, it really opened my eyes to the importance of having a strong and well-defined brand. This chart here shows you where your brand sits relative to all of the places someone, a potential client, might encounter your brand. You can see here at the center, right? We've got the brand and the website. And then immediately surrounding that, you've got what I would say are first points of contact. Now, the important way to think about this is treat it like this is a game of telephone, all right? And the further you are away from the core, the brand, the more ears have heard the whisper of the telephone game. So, for example, one thing that sits immediately proximate to your brand might be your social media presence, how you show up on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, right? But of course, people don't just find you on Facebook because Facebook has a lot of consumer-facing parts. Maybe they find you in the context of a group. Maybe they find you in the context of a post that you posted or that somebody else shared to their newsfeed. Maybe your page or you yourself sent somebody a message. So that's actually the point of contact from a consumer's perspective with your brand. And so now think of the telephone game. Whisper once to social, whisper again to the specific social media platform, whisper again to the part of the platform where somebody heard your brand. That's how this works. And like a game of telephone, there are certain things you want to keep in mind. For example, the fewer words that somebody has to say from the point that the initial instigator whispers in the ear to the point at the end when the last person hears whatever was whispered, right? The fewer words there are, the more memorable it's going to be. Also, the clearer the sentence is, the more memorable it's going to be. In other words, if you lay out a sentence that says something like, the dog runs, that's easy to translate multiple times, and probably at the end of the telephone game, someone's going to say, the dog runs. But if you were to describe the ingredients of your favorite breakfast, and you were to do it in a casual way, like you're recalling it as it comes to you, probably by the end, whatever the ingredients are of your breakfast aren't going to show up on the menu, right? And this is the way that a lot of us treat our brand. So when someone says, hey, what's your company about? You say, oh, well, we do this and we do that. We serve clients in Central Orange County, and we work primarily with first-time home buyers, and we specialize in helping veterans, right? Maybe you say that, but then maybe somebody else comes to you on Facebook and they see a post. And on the post, you're talking about helping sellers do incredible marketing, right? And it's like, well, okay, first somebody heard you in verbally talk about how you help veterans that are first-time home buyers, but now they're seeing you share posts about the amazing photography you're doing for sellers and maybe ultra high-end property net worth and this kind of stuff. And it's like, how do these things balance out? And in the telephone game, right, that's not going to be memorable. It's not going to be sticky. And that's the challenge that we all face, because most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we don't have this really solid well-defined concept of who we are, the value we bring to people, or even the people we're trying to bring the value to. And so when someone talks to us about what we do, we just go top of mind, whatever happens to be on our mind, maybe the most recent details of a deal we've done. And that's good enough. And we keep moving forward because we think, I'm in real estate and that's all people really need to know. Right. And in the telephone game, that brand messaging is going to get distorted. It won't get you traction and it won't be memorable. So I hope that this kind of opens your eyes to how much of a telephone game is being played with your brand at any given time and how diluted your brand message can be if it's not strong and simple and powerfully delivered and sharp right at the start. I'm going to take you through the exercise that my company did, specifically that I did when building Lighthouse several years ago. This is actually part of something that I call brand therapy. I do this with all sorts of professionals because I really love helping people to build their businesses. Sometimes it's people in real estate. Sometimes it's people outside of the industry. I've done this for lawyers. I've done this for a whole bunch of different people. And this is something that I'm passionate about because, honestly, building a brand is very, very challenging. And I remember in my early days building some I haven't just had escrow companies, I've had other things I've done. And, I always sit down and I would write out all these big ideas I had and these visions for myself and whatever. And there was this exercise that I practically remade the wheel every single time. And I thought, what if I could just take the experience, the knowledge I have, condense it and deliver it to somebody to help them cut through a lot of the mistakes I made and get to the essence of their brand very, very quickly. And so that's what brand therapy is. And today I'm going to walk you through some of the initial questions you should ask in order to get that really solid core, that brand definition core that will last well in the telephone game. All right, so here we go. The question we're answering: why does the world need another? In my case, it's escrow company. In your case, maybe it's real estate agent or lender or title rep. Okay. And let's start here with, who do you serve? Now, I know that this is a bit of a rote question. This is the kind of typical question you might see. And before your eyes glaze over, let me present it to you a little bit differently. Okay. I don't want you to imagine all the people you would like to serve. I don't want you to try and categorize all the people you have served. What I want you to do is to take a snapshot of your last 2 years. And if you're new to the business, we can still do this. I'll help you modify these questions in a minute. But for everybody else who might be in the business and trying to build that brand core, take the snapshot of who you served over the last 2 years. What's true of 75% of them? This is the first point where I need you to get honest with yourself. Because the temptation is to run to the sexiest outliers of the people we've served. Maybe, in my case, I'm an escrow company, so maybe I brought in a $10 million deal, right? Served an agent who sold a $10 million property. And I want to be like, yes, we're the escrow company that serves the agents selling $10 million properties, right? That would be the temptation. And why not? Because that is incredibly attractive for escrow companies to be able to say. But it would not be true of 75%. So what you need to do is you need to take that 25%, maybe the sexy 25%, maybe the unsexy 25%. Maybe you're somebody who's pessimistic and you're down on yourself. Take those outliers, push them to the side, because I recognize and you recognize that not everyone's going to fit the perfect client profile for you. But there's probably a lot of commonality in that solid middle 75%. And that's what I want you to focus in on. Okay. And the first thing we're going to focus in on here is their age. What is their age band, right? So in our case, several years ago, the age band of real estate agents that we serve, 75%, was about 30 to 50. In other words, my company at that point in time was not serving brand new agents who are 20-something-year-olds getting in the business, learning things for the first time. We also weren't serving the very well established but much older demographic of 51 plus year old agents who had a huge book and were super dialed in. We were serving the agents that had some experience, right? And the next thing that I have you look at is, in our case, I looked at their volume. In other words, what kind of business were they doing, right? In our case, our average agent at that time was doing about 6 per year. So again, not super new, not super established. Now, why were they making a change? Why, in our case, why were they switching companies? If you're a real estate agent and or a lender and you're working with buyers or sellers, you might say, why are they moving? In our case, agents were making a change because they were looking for service. They were tired of putting out fires with escrow, and they wanted to lock down a team of expert partners. Now, again, I want to challenge you here. If you and I were having a conversation in real life about this, my experience, this is one of the first places that we lie to ourselves about, right? Because what we want to do is we want to take all the things we say we're good at, and we want those to be the reasons that people use us. And so, again, in my case, as an escrow company, I might say something like, well, they use us because we're the best and we have great service. And it's like, okay, well, what does any of that mean? What does it mean to be the best? The best compared to what? How is somebody ranking it? Who's ranking it? And what is service? What does that actually look like? If I were to say we have great service, what am I talking about? Am I talking about the fact that we're open maybe longer hours? Am I talking about the fact that we respond to emails? If so, how quickly? And how does that compare to everybody else? You see, in other words, it's really easy for us to throw out marketing jargon right now, or to throw out all of the taglines that we have in our heads about ourselves and say, this is why they're working with me and this is why they're switching from the competition. But you have to actually have had conversations with your agents to really know, or your clients, to really know why they chose you over somebody else. And if you haven't had those conversations, I would strongly encourage you to reach back out to your clients from the past 2 years and have them, right? Because again, you are one of many. So what made you one of one to this 75%? And for me, I said they're looking for service. This is something that I put here, but we had to define it. And you'll see in a bit that we do. Okay. And you have to be aware of the jargon. And this is something that I received directly from my clients when I reached out to them, like, you know, you were working with an escrow company before. What made you make the switch, right? And they would say things to me like, well, Dustin, I can never get my escrow officer on the phone, but your escrow officers always answer the phone. Great, awesome. That helps me define service. It also gives me a sense of what I can say to clients down the road as I'm attracting new business that makes us different, right? So why are they making a change? Or in our case, why are they switching companies? Then the next thing to ask yourself is, where did they come from? And this is a generative question, right? So again, we tend to lie to ourselves here. Oh, they found me on the internet. I had the best brand. They wanted to work with me because my brand is so amazing and my reputation precedes me, right? This is the sort of stuff we'd like to think. Or maybe we're just totally unaware and we just think, oh, the business just comes. Like, okay, but from where? And this question will be useful in a minute. I'll tell you why. So in our case, our business came from our relationship network, from agents who are on the buy side of an escrow transaction, and from some of our marketing efforts. Specifically, if I'm going to define the marketing efforts, at that time, we were sponsoring Orange County Association of Realtor events. We were sponsoring meetups for investor flippers. And for us as a company, serving investor flippers was actually a big boom for us in the early days when we were getting going. And it actually fit this demographic too, because investor flippers are doing, really good ones are doing up to 6 homes a year. Oftentimes they're real estate agents. They appreciate the level of service we offered in terms of being able to solve problems in advance. They didn't want to put out any fires. They wanted expert partners, right? You see how these things kind of align. And so for us, when I say things like marketing efforts, I had that defined. I could point to events, I could point to activities that we were doing. We didn't do many marketing campaigns. So if you're a real estate agent and you're thinking, how would this apply to me? Well, we as a company weren't doing Facebook ads, but maybe you are, and you should be tracking those metrics to see, are people converting through your Facebook ads? If you're a lender, the same thing. If you're in title, ask yourself, what are you showing up to where you seem to be having the most synergy with people? And are you getting people from different meetups, different groups you're part of, BNI, whatever the case might be? That's good to know. So be honest with yourself about this. Now, what do you have in common with them? Okay. In our case, what I discovered is that what we had in common with them were my employees, my escrow team. They were very, very experienced. They had expertise. All of them had at least 10 years. Several of them had much more than 10 years of experience. So they had seen a lot. They had done a lot. They were very expert. We were highly responsive. These agents we were working with were highly responsive. We both had appealing branding and marketing, right? So my company in the early days, we spent a lot of time and money and effort on making our brand really pop, right? So we considered, for example, the texture of the paper we were using. We considered things like, do we do spot UV treatments on our business cards? Do we do embossing? When we hand out our closing packages or opening packages, are we just putting them in a standard manila envelope, or do we spend money on really nicely attractive branded portfolio envelopes, which is what we did? We had CDs at that time that were really well branded, that had all this contact information and for the agents and for us. So very informative, right? And we spent a lot of money, even right down to like the pens we handed out. I took a bunch of samples of pens and I held them in my hand, and I considered weight and I considered the feel of it. And so the Entice pen that we ended up getting from Amsterdam Printing, which we've had for years now and always get compliments, was just, it writes really well and it feels good in the hand. It feels substantial. It looks sharp, right? So we were having those kinds of considerations, and we found that the real estate agents we connected most with really were like that too. Right? They were really pouring over their flyers. They were really pouring over all of their marketing pieces. They cared a lot about what was on their website, right? It's just, that's the synergy. Now, for you, if you're in title or a real estate agent or whatever, right? Whatever business you're in, think expansively here. This, especially if you're an individual and not a company like us, right? Some of the things you might have in common with people would be stuff like, maybe your kids play in the same soccer league. Maybe you're a part of the same faith tradition, or maybe you get a lot of business from a nonprofit that you volunteer with and you're closely connected to, right? Maybe you're getting business from your spouse's, maybe your spouse also has a job and you've connected in with his or her referral network, and you're getting a lot of business from that demographic. In my case, my wife's a litigator. And so, there's a world in which if we really wanted to, we could have become the escrow company to litigators, to attorneys, in big law firms, right? And certainly it makes a little bit less sense for escrow, but certainly for real estate agents, right? That could be a possibility. Maybe your wife's a doctor. And so you are the real estate agent to doctors. Or if you're a lender, maybe your spouse is a doctor, and you have loan programs that help cover the costs associated with a doctor getting a loan, or take into special consideration things like the substantial student debt a doctor might have. Like maybe you have special loan programs targeted to doctors. Think like that and really open your mind up to all of the places that you're having really great conversations, especially if those places aren't, strictly speaking, professionally oriented. Because in my experience, those are really fantastic places to find people and to do business, right? So what do you have in common? And really, what this question, if you answer it well, should tap into the core of your being. It should make you feel something, right? Like when you start talking about uh, what you have in common, like you both should light up. You should practically glow. Okay. So if you're not achieving that level of depth, you're not digging deeply enough and you need to dig deeper. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, feel free to post any questions you have right now. I'm taking questions. I'll keep an eye out. So feel free to post any questions if you're trying to figure out how do I dig deeper or anything about what I've said so far. What stage in life is this person, this model person, persona that you're crafting? What stage in life are they in? For us, reframe this question a little bit as a stage in their career. So for us, the way that we answer that question based on our 75% is these people were established, they have a rhythm, they are high achieving, and they require, as a result of all of those things, a solid support staff in order to operate at the level that they operate. And in fact, one of the things that we discovered, um, it was an important discovery for me, so I'm going to share it with you. One of the things that we discovered is that the kind of agent that started coming over to us in the early days, um, reason they came over to us is because we took so many things off of their plate during the escrow process. Like we were very comprehensive in how we handle the escrow, and ideally, you don't hear from us. We give status updates and stuff, but like we want Lighthouse to be a kind of set it and forget it, white glove, amazing experience for the buyers and the sellers. That's really what we're passionate about and driven toward. And so, what we found is that the agents, when they came over to us, they were able to do more. And so instead of being able to only handle maybe one deal in escrow and one deal kind of in the pipeline, which would give them about, 6 plus a year. When they started working with us, we've freed up a substantial enough amount of time in their escrow side that they were able to actually almost double their business or more, right? Now, of course, at some point you have to hire help because escrow can only do so much to mitigate the amount of work that's done in escrow, but a good escrow company can really do a lot, right? And so that's something that we recognize that people were at the stage of their career where they kind of hit a ceiling. We came in, we took pressure off, and then their ceiling got higher, and they were able to rise to that level. And that made them really loyal to us, really deeply ingrained them with us. And so we started looking for people at that stage in their career. And let me pause for a second in these questions and kind of give you a real world sense of why all of this is valuable. Okay, not so you go to we would show up at like an association meeting, an Orange County Association meeting, right? All these real estate agents, whatever. We talk to a lot of agents. The temptation of someone in my position, or even more so, someone in the sales position in my company, right? Business development. The temptation is to take every one of those business cards and treat them equally. Okay. Because you never know, right? Except for the fact that we did know. And so we very quickly asked a series of questions. Oh, how long have you been in the business? What got you into the business? What are you doing to grow your business? I'm curious about them, yes, but mostly I'm qualifying them and I'm doing so very, very rapidly, right? So if somebody says to me, "Oh, I just got started in the business, I have a friend in real estate, they're making good money." Like I'd be polite to this person, we would have a little bit of a conversation, but that business card is not going to be put into my CRM. It won't, because I'm not going to follow up with them. They're not my people. Okay? Maybe someday they will be, and that's why, hey, I'll be nice, but we all know in this industry that a whole lot of us, escrow, title, lending, it doesn't matter, right? A whole lot of us come in and a whole lot of us wash out. We only have so many hours in a day to do what we do. And so the faster you can get to your people with the message that really resonates with them, especially in the context of a telephone game, with a succinct message targeted exactly at them, the faster you're going to convert and the less effort you're going to have to put into the conversion process because you've done a great job qualifying, right? Does that make sense? And so we were looking for people at a specific stage in their career. And so in those broker preview meetings, if they said something to me like, "Oh yeah, I've been doing this for about 4 years. I do about 4, 5, 6 a year. I'm building up. I've got a lot going on. I kind of feel a little bit maxed out. These are all for me green flags. Like this person would be really great for Lighthouse because we know how we can help them go to the next level by being that escrow professional for them. Right. And so now I can really just tailor my conversation to them. I know what to say because I've said it many times before to people just like them and it works. And then finally, this stage in life, this one is important for you if it's important for everybody, but it's important because uh, what it helps you to do is it helps you to know kind of where your people are hanging out, right? So for me, as an escrow professional, my people were the kind of people that had decided to make a career of real estate. So what this typically meant was they would probably not be hanging out all that often at most Orange County Association of Realtor events. And that was a huge, huge realization for us because in the early days, we spent quite a bit of money and time and effort really promoting through the usual channels. And we realized that the kind of people we were actually working with never saw us there. And that just wasn't a good use of resources, right? And you want to have the same sort of realization. So if you're a real estate agent, you might recognize that the stage in life someone's at is maybe they're in their first home, they've got a young family, they've outgrown their home, and they're looking to move into their step up home, maybe their 30-year home. That's great because those people probably aren't hanging out at bars, clubs, and young professional meetups. That's also great because you don't necessarily need to market to people who are looking to downsize, right? Those aren't your people. That they're not your stage. But maybe you're going to go to apartment communities, right? Or maybe you're going to go to condos. Condos will probably be great for the kind of person at that stage of life. Do you see now how this is helping you to filter out not only filter in the message, like come down, this is condensed, this is what my message is, but also filter out the kinds of marketing campaigns that are regularly pitched to you from salespeople in our industry. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of this you're seeing here and we're going to condense it into a summary that snapshots your persona, the kind of person you're serving. So here's what that looked like for Lighthouse. Lighthouse Escrow serves clients who are established and growing, who have a sense of what's real in our industry and are upwardly bound. They are between the ages of 30 and 50, selling 6+ homes per year. They are often coming from our relationship network, a marketing effort, or they were on the buy side of an escrow, and they stuck with us because they're looking for service, they're tired of putting out fires, and they want to lock down a team of expert partners. These people and I have organic synergy because we're both expert at what we do. We're highly responsive to our clients, and we understand the value of appealing marketing and branding. If you come to the end of what we've just done here, and you don't have a summary like that that gives you an aha moment, you did it wrong. It needs to be an aha moment. And if it's done really well, what it's going to do is it's going to give you immediate clarity on a number of fronts. One huge front it will give you immediate clarity on is where should you invest your marketing time, talent, and treasure. In our case, we should be investing our marketing time, talent, and treasure in areas where we can really establish our expertise. So, for example, we ended up doing a lot more seminars on escrow, going into offices and talking about the escrow process, some of the pitfalls people run into when they don't do things like order a prelim ahead of time, et cetera, et cetera. We ended up investing a lot more time, talent, and energy in going to our relationship network and saying to them, hey, do you know anyone who could use the level of service we've provided to you? Do you know anyone who's maybe hit their ceiling and is looking to unlock some bandwidth? Do you know someone who's regularly complaining about their escrow? Right now, that's kind of an obvious one, but the fact of the matter is, why are they complaining? It's like it's not just that they're complaining about their escrow; it's a specific kind of complaint, right? Oh, my escrow is always causing me to put out fires. All right, great. That person has felt a pain that we can address. Um, if you have this level of clarity, you're then able to come up with a message for these people. And you're not afraid if your message doesn't land with somebody who's outside of this snapshot, because that's okay. They're not necessarily your people. Um, so that's what we're building to here is getting this summary. Now, I want to address something that has come up many times in my conversations with people as I've done this over the several years. Okay. They say to me, Dustin, this is really great, super useful. Here's my problem. I don't want to keep serving the same people I've been serving, right? Like, I love my clients, they're great, but I'm aiming at something bigger, further out, whatever, right? So, again, in my company's case, love to serve agents who are selling really, really valuable coastal properties, right? Just because you start here doesn't mean you're going to end here. Doesn't mean you're going to have to camp here, right? What we found in with doing this and in our case is that yeah, we started here, but the kinds of agents that we were serving, they went on to become pretty significant agents in the county, right? Um, in other words, we grew with them. You'll grow with your demo too. So if you're a real estate agent and we do this identity document and it looks like you're serving first time home buyers, well, guess what? Focus on serving those first time home buyers. Do that for three years or so. And you know what you're going to find out? At the end of 3 years of serving first time home buyers, your clients from year one are going to be second home buyers. They're going to be step up home buyers, right? And if you listen to the marketing trench and you listen to what Scott and Ricardo and I talk about every single week about having these people on HomeBot or having them on other follow-up campaigns, if you're staying in touch with them, if you're you've got a relationship with these people and you're really cultivating your sphere of influence and you're bringing them a lot of value, you're going to grow with them. And before you know it, in 5 years, in this hypothetical, you're a real estate agent who's serving step-up clients, right? And then maybe 10 years after that, you're a real estate agent who's serving step-up clients. Or maybe 20 years after that, you're serving downsizing clients, right? Your career as an agent, title, escrow, whatever, is going to mature with your client base. The goal here is for you right now in this moment, when you feel like one of many and not one of one, but one of many, is to stand out as one of one, to get yourself some traction and to make yourself memorable, right? And so by hyper defining this group that you're serving right now, you're going to achieve that, and then you're going to grow. Now that we have a sense of who you're serving and kind of why and how, we're going to dive into the what. I'm going to pull this up. So this is the elements of value pyramid. If you do a Google search for elements of value pyramid, this was put out by the Harvard Business Review in connection with Bain and Company, a big consulting firm, back in 2015, 2016. Okay. And what is this? This is modeled after Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the premise of this pyramid is that some values that you offer create more gravity, are more attractive, or the way that I like to think of it, cause people to glow more than others. And if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, you have this sort of base level that you have to check. Nobody's going to think about rockets to the moon if everybody is starving and has no food, no water, no shelter. So you have to focus on getting a foundation of ready access to food, water, shelter for most people in your society, right? But then you got that sort of next level, right? Where you bring in some creativity, some work, a little bit more self actualization. And ultimately, that's what you're driving to at the end, where people can really pour themselves into being the most of who they were made to be, the most full version, the most real version of themselves. Okay. And it's not like you just jump from zero to that. You have to build to it. Well, the same thing is true if you're a business providing value. So, at the base layer of the elements of value pyramid, you have things like, do you help people make money? Are you giving them information? Do you help them reduce their cost? Are you helping them save time? Right? These are all what they consider to be functional values. They are valuable, they do matter, and you got to have that functional value. But it is just a baseline. And it's really not going to thrill people a whole lot, right? If you think about it, going to Walmart's fine. You appreciate saving money. It's not a transcendent experience, and for most of us, it's not. If anything, maybe it might feel like stepping into bizarro land, but that's fine because Walmart isn't there to help you become self-transcendent, to help you really become the most full version of yourself. Walmart is there to give you a $150 45-inch TV. Great, fine. That's what it's there for. And let me be very, very clear. There's real money to be made here, okay? So lest you think, oh, I'm merely providing functional value, I'll never make it. No, wrong, right? Like some of the biggest brands in the world mostly just live at the functional layer, and they are hugely successful. And in escrow, it's no different. There are escrow companies, for example, in my state of California, that do not charge the sellers any escrow fees. They only charge the buyers. So they're a discount escrow company and they make a lot of money. They do a ton of escrow business. Real estate agents, when in listing presentations with prospective clients, say, hey, don't worry. If you work with me, I'm going to save you a bunch of money on your escrow. I'm going to get you a free escrow, right? And so it's part of their value prop. It makes sense. It works. It does work. Now, there are limits, there are trade offs. There are trade offs to everything and to this as well. But you can be that agent or that title person or that lender or that escrow company that says, I'm going to hyper focus on functional value. No problem, right? And you could do very, very well. But if you want to have the kind of company that people really get thrilled about, that they glow when they talk about it, and they'll stick with you through a whole lot. In other words, if you want to have a high endurance relationship with your clients, I believe you have to really drive them up the pyramid so that they have deep, deep engagement with you. All right. So, how do we do that? First, you need to ask yourself, what do you do for them? Look at this elements of value pyramid. Again, you can Google search it. It's readily available. And let's start with the functional level. I want to tell you that your temptation right now is going to be to name everything, right? You're going to be like, well, I help them avoid hassle and I help them reduce some costs here and there. And, because I'm an escrow company, we reduce a lot of risk because otherwise, you'd just be handing money to some stranger, right? Like I could just rattle off and make a case for everything. You want to focus. Telephone game. Focus. Small, simple sentence. Okay. So the best companies in the world hyper focus on maybe 5 or 6 total values that they provide. You got to do the same. So at the functional level, I would say no more than 3, and even fewer would probably be better. And it's okay if right now you want to maybe throw up even more, right? But we're going to get to a point in this conversation where I'm going to help you thin this herd pretty aggressively, but just know what you're aiming at going into it. So for Lighthouse, one of the biggest things we were doing is we were bringing a lot of information to buyers and sellers. You expected me to say real estate agents, but that's actually not the case because keep my people in mind. They already knew what they were doing. They understood the escrow process. So one of the ways that we gave those real estate agents bandwidth was we provided a ton of information to buyers and sellers. We would sit on the phone with them, walk them through their documents. We would have our escrow officers go to their house and sit down and walk them through their opening packages. And what did that do? That caused the buyers and the sellers not to call their real estate agent, not to text their real estate agent, not to email their real estate agent. That gave their buyers and sellers a whole lot of confidence right at the start when they needed it, right? And that was huge because it saved real estate agents a ton of time having to answer questions, right? Off the table now. They don't have to worry about it. Escrow's got it taken care of. So providing information was important. And again, run it through some other metrics that I'm going to go through here in just a minute, where we talk about design and aesthetics and all the rest. We weren't just giving them information on a Word document. We were very, very intentional about how we had these conversations, how they were delivered, right? The in-person and on the phone, very, very important. And we as a company made the decision early on to spend money to have staff to make that possible. What else do we do? Well, we help them avoid hassle. Okay. We had quality service. And what did quality mean? Well, quality in our case meant things like not making mistakes on the documents as they got out so that someone didn't look and say, well, that's not my name. I don't have title held in this way or blah, 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 blah. Like, get those right. Not everyone does, by the way. It's a busy industry. A lot of people are doing a lot of things. And especially the less money you're paying for escrow, the more volume the escrow company has to do. And so escrow officers get busy and mistakes are made. So quality is important. And then finally, we simplify. One way we simplified, for example, was we took a look at our escrow instructions and we said, what are these darn things, right? Why do we write them? And we came to a point where we said, we write them for ourselves because they don't supersede the residential purchase agreement. And that's what we use here in California. They don't supersede the residential purchase agreement. They're just a CYA measure for escrow companies. How can we make this better? And so we came up with a way of doing that. So we're hyper focused on simplification at every single step. By the way, you would see our website got simpler and simpler and simpler over time as well, right? Emotional. Well, we do provide therapeutic value, right? We focus a lot on design and aesthetics in the way that I've already talked about. Life-changing. I put affiliation here initially as I was working through this. I don't think that's so much true, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then finally, self-transcendent. So the way to think about what self-transcendence is Tom's Shoes. If you don't know anything about Tom's Shoes is a shoe company like any other shoe company, except for the fact that when you buy a Tom's Shoes, a pair of Tom's Shoes is given to a kid in need who doesn't have shoes, right? Normally in a developing nation. And so you could go buy Nikes, you could go buy New Balance. I'm a dad. I like my New Balance and my white socks, right? You could do that. But maybe you want that same amount of money to make a little bit of an impact for good on the world. And so, buy a pair of Toms instead, right? And now you feel like you're making a difference with a purchase you would have already made anyway. That's self-transcendence. In our case, a portion of the proceeds from the escrows that come into Lighthouse Escrow go to support an organization called Seneca Family of Agencies that does amazing work in the adoption space. I sit on their Southern California fundraising board. The two founders of this company, each of them have adopted children into their family. And so adoption, my wife and I have kind of quasi-fostered kids. Like it's just a big part of who we are and the ethos of the company. And so for us, one of the things we've told our clients is, hey, by the way, when you work with us, we're helping to give to an organization helping kids in the foster care system here in Orange County. And people really, really love that. All right, so get your what's down and write them down. And like I said, don't put much else here, just write them down. Because the next thing we're going to talk about is how. Now, this exercise is really, really important because this is where you start thinning the herd. In fact, this is where most of the thinning happens, right? And so you want to get to a point where you're striking stuff out if it doesn't really apply. So how do we do it? In forms. I had to sit down and I had to be able to clearly articulate what thing that actually happens in my office ties to us doing the informing work. So in our case, it's escrow officers answering phones. They take the time to explain complicated transactional questions. They guide people through the process, right? And I could point to stuff like I should be able to walk around and see an employee doing something and be able to say, okay, that is this value, right? And in your business, do the same thing. And the temptation here, especially when you start climbing up the sort of pyramid, you want to say really good things about yourself. And so you put a bunch of values up here, but really you don't do much with them. Like they're in your head. Maybe you're excited about them. Maybe someday you think that they're going to have a potential to really connect with people. But on the whole, you're not really doing anything with it. Like it's just sort of there. And if somebody were to say, hey, does this person actually provide therapeutic value? They'd be like, well, that's kind of a weird thing to say about an escrow company. I don't really feel that. You've done it wrong. If that would be the reaction from your 75%, right? Avoiding hassle. We have a pre-escrow program. This is where we, order preliminary title. Sometimes we'll even get a city report ahead of time, stuff like that. Like we will encourage we will walk our clients through getting important documents ahead of time, so that when the time comes, escrow can open quickly. We've got information already ready to go, and everyone can be fully prepared with the information they need to make important decisions during their contingency periods, right? Again, our goal here was really to provide a ton of value to buyers and sellers. Another way we did it was DocuSign. Shuttling papers here and there and getting people to sign things and send them in. Like, why? Now, keep in mind, we were founded in 2010. DocuSign and all these technologies were relatively new at that point. There was a lot of opposition in our industry to going paperless when we got started. But from day one, we've looked around and we said, yeah, life is moving to screens. Paper doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. Like we'll give people paper if they want it, but it's not our default. It's never been our default. Why? And you want to have that kind of clarity on your values too. Quality, we just have escrow officers who top of their field. It's who we hire. It's what we pay, frankly. Like most people in my seat don't like to talk about money. I talk about money pretty freely, and I'll tell you, you get what you pay for. Always, you get what you pay for in some form or fashion. And it's more expensive to run the company that I run the way I run it, but it gives me exactly what I want in terms of quality and service. And so we do it. And my employees make very good money here, and I'm proud of them for that. I'm excited. When an employee shows up in a brand new car that they afford because they've done fantastic work and built a big book of business here, man, there are a few things that make me happier. And when they get that new car, I'm the first one to say, hey, show me your car. I can't wait to see it, right? Like that's how we do it here. Simplifies. One of the things we did was we created this escrow coordination position, and it's been phenomenal, a huge success. And again, a lot of people thought, oh, you're doing it to, whatever. You're doing it to try and bribe people to use you, whatever. No, I want total control over the escrow I want all the control that I can possibly have, because the more control I have, the more I can deliver on the experience I want to deliver on, and the better I can make it, right? I want control. In the escrow coordination program, man, it simplified a lot of things because we were able to really just package a lot of things together in single DocuSign envelopes as opposed to DocuSign this, and DocuSign that, and this over here, and then hey, can you talk to so and so to talk to so and so to get this thing? It's like no, all in house. Bring it all in house. Give it all to me. I want it all. I want it all so that my clients can have a seamless, streamlined experience. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Relentlessly focused on it. Okay. And so I can point to a program at our company that simplifies. I hope you're getting here. I hope you're getting here from this conversation how rigorous and thorough you need to be when you are challenging yourself to defend the proposition that you provide X, Y, or Z value. Okay. Because again, this might seem tedious, it might seem boring, it might seem like, what's the value of this, right? But the fact of the matter is, again, your brand is going through a telephone game, and the more succinct you are at that, the tighter you can make it, the less brand confusion there's going to be as it goes through the different levels of communication, right? Next, you're going to ask yourself, why do you do it? If you are not passionate about the value you're bringing, strike it from the list. Honest to God, strike it. I don't care how good it is. If you're not passionate about it, strike it. Because people are going to know that you don't care a whole lot about it, and they're going to feel it from you. People should never feel anything less than full dedication and passion to the thing that you are doing. And so if you cannot bring yourself to have that dedication to your business and why you're doing it and how you're doing it, forget about it. Just strike it. Don't bring it up in the conversation. It won't stick. And at that point, you're just adding noise. Why do you do it? So for us, for example, when we talk about delivering quality, we do it because we care about being kind. We're grateful for the business we have, and we prize excellence. And those are kind of weird, right? Like, what does kindness have to do with quality? I didn't arrive at that immediately. Like, I pushed myself really, really hard on this point. Like, why the heck? What is it about quality that I care so much about? Like, why does this word keep sticking in my brain? Like, why? And I thought about it. I thought, like, what is the function of quality? What does it do for people? If I'm giving something that's a quality product versus something that's not a quality product, how does it make me feel? What does it communicate to me about the person giving me the thing? Right? How does it excite me beyond the moment that it's given to me? Right? Or what role might it play in my life? Like, you just dig at it and really just push yourself to get clear on what it is about that thing that makes it stick in your brain. And I hope some of those questions help you to unearth it. If not, again, you can always reach out to us at the Marketing Trench, marketingtrench.fm. You can contact us, send us an email if you're going through this and you're like, I can't really figure out like why quality matters to me. Maybe it doesn't. Like, maybe the answer is quality actually doesn't matter that much to you. If you just feel like you should say it because nobody wants to deliver a crap product. Look, just because you don't have quality as like a brand value doesn't mean that you have to deliver a crap product. It just means that that's just not something you're super passionate about and hyper focused on, right? You're really trying to surface those things and animate. Next, you're going to ask yourself, why are you qualified to deliver any of this? Right? Dig into your competencies. What are you actually really good at? If you say, I bring informational value to buyers and sellers as a lender or as a real estate agent, and you can't explain to me what's in a contract, you're wrong. Hear this from me, right? If you say that you inform or name your value and you cannot do something, you are not competent to do something that is intrinsic and frankly basic to the value, then you are wrong. And you need to strike that value from your proposition here. What is it about you? You have things about you that are remarkable that other people don't have. Maybe you're a gifted speaker. Maybe you have a high emotional intelligence and you just get people at an intuitive level and you can cut through and immediately connect with them. Maybe you're data driven and you can just bring a ton of information to the right person who really wants it. Maybe you're hyper organized and you're the kind of person that can step into a tornado and orchestrate it into something like an orchestra, right? Like maybe you're that kind of person. You have gifts and talents. Don't be afraid of them. Don't think that they're ubiquitous. This is my problem, right? I think I'm good at something, so everybody must be good at it. I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but if you have, right? I hear you. I understand. But trust me, the things that come naturally to you don't come naturally to others. So ask yourself why you're qualified, what your competencies are. Okay. And then filter those competencies through your elements of value, filter it through. And you're going to see that there are a couple that really just rise to the top. And those are the ones that are going to be at the core of your brand, to your persona that you've crafted above in the summary. Okay. Finally, I want you, and this is really hard and it's probably going to take you a little bit of time. I want you to boil your entire brand down to one word. This one word is your flag in the ground. It's the piece of real estate you're going to own. And if a person or an opportunity happens to reside outside of that territory, then that person or opportunity probably isn't a fit for you. You are going to cling to this thing like it is your life. Okay. So in the case of Lighthouse Escrow, I boiled it down to elegance. And in the future, I can talk about how that works. But at a base level, for us, it was on the informational side, we had simple explanations. They were elegant, right? On the quality value, we delivered a luxurious experience, again, elegant. And then on the design side, everything was tasteful and clean. Again, evokes the idea of elegance. Elegance, escrow. We deliver an elegant escrow experience to people selling between 30 and 50 who are selling 6+ homes a year, who are looking for service. They're tired of putting out fires and they want to lock down their team of expert partners. I hope this was valuable to you. If you have any questions, marketingtrench.fm. If you want to take any of this brand stuff that you've just done, you've come up with your core brand and you're ready to roll with it, then go to marketingtrench.fm, listen to our previous episodes, or find us on YouTube, subscribe there, and we will tell you how to do things like set up your CRM, think about your sphere of influence, all the rest. Really great episodes there. I hope this was helpful to you. Until next time, this has been the Marketing Trench.